Hi, everybody. I'm Alan Sepinwall, and it is my great pleasure to introduce the writers of Everybody Loves Raymond, starting with Lou Schneider. Good to see you, Lou. Aaron Shure. Good to see you. Cindy Chupack. Hello.
Hello.
Tom Caltabiano. Phil Rosenthal. That's it. And you just watched a whole bunch of them in those hilarious clips. Ray Romano. Thank you. Good to see you. All right, so one of the things that is great about the show, is fundamental to the show, is how much the show is art imitating life. And so Phil and Ray, I want to start off, how much of the show, when it was developed in that pilot, was from each of your lives?
Anna, my wife, you want to get up and answer? A lot. I mean,
I meet Ray. We meet at Arts Deli. I say, tell me about yourself. I don't know him. He doesn't know me, even though we're both born in Queens. Yeah.
Queens.
And he tells me about his actual life, his actual...
Yeah, my father, my twins, my wife.
older
My
daughter,
older daughter, my brother, the cop. Yeah.
somewhat jealous of you.
Yes.
Touches every bite of food to his chin before he eats it.
True story.
All true. He saw a comedy award you won, and what did he say?
He saw an award I won, and he said, look at Raymond. I go to work, people shoot at me. Raymond goes to work, and everybody loves Raymond. Yeah. And then,
So I said, well, there doesn't seem like there's anything there we can use. No, I thought that's a good place to start.
Yes.
And I remember you said, what do you mean? I'm like, he goes, it's just my life. I'm like, yeah, listen, you're not an actor. We should make you as close to who you are, right? Now, look, Mr. Scorsese calls him. But then I thought, keep it real, surround him with great actors like this young lady. Yes? And what I didn't know about the characters in the family, because we hadn't met yet, I started filling in with the personalities in my family, too. So it's this happy marriage between, or unhappy marriage between the two families.
All right, so we're going to start there. This is there's a scene from the pilot that we would like to see, and then Phil, you're going to tell us a little bit about the real life origins of it. Okay. So, how close to real life does that scene go, Phil?
Pretty much verbatim. I remember that very, very well, that I sent them, I thought I was being nice. Through the month, they acted as if I sent them a box of heads from a murderer. And I never forgot it. In fact, where's my brother and sister-in-law? I was best man at Richard's wedding. I gave the toast. That was the toast. I wanted to warn Karen exactly what kind of crazy she was getting into, and there was still time to run. Yeah. I tell a toast, and you know, you hope for laughs at the toast.
Yes.
Got big laughs. Never forgot it. Now I'm writing a pilot. I'm thinking I got to put in a scene. How do I illustrate? This is the first time we're really seeing the parents. How do I illustrate how crazy Ray's parents are? That's it.
And how did your mother react when she saw the pilot?
She said, you know, it's funny. But it is exaggerated.
Now, Phil, you told me something once a long time ago that you were a big fan of the way that Carl Reiner ran the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Had the perfect modus operandi, right? He said to the writers, what happened at your house this week?
Yes.
So I thought, oh, look, we're writing about a family, a real family. That's the best way to, if they can tell you, if you work for me, your job was to go home, get in a fight with your family, come back in and tell me about it. 90% of what you saw happened to me or to Ray or to one of these guys and some of the other guys who aren't here today. But listen, I thought we went home 5, 6 o'clock every night because dinner at home is where the stories were coming from.
Yeah, Mike Royce, one of the other writers who is not
Yes.
here, he told me that you used to say you can't write about your life if you don't have one.
Yeah. You can't write about real life if you don't have one. That's right. That's right.
Okay, so we're going to talk about some of these real life stories that led to the show. Lou, we're going to start with you. What are we going to watch here?
Well, this clip, I'll try to keep it somewhat short. We were all going through these life experiences at the same time. I had kids exactly the same age as Ray's kids, pretty much. And we were all going through the incredible gymnastics you have to go through to hold onto a babysitter. So we had a situation where, but at the same point where you want your kids to really connect with your babysitter, you also have a problem if the kids like the sitter more than they like you. So there's a lot of tension there. So we wrote an episode where they get this great sitter, she's awesome, everybody loves her, and Doris and Marie sort of picks at Deborah and says, oh, they sure love that sitter, because Doris thought, Marie thinks she should be the sitter. So basically, she gets in Deborah's head, and they dismiss the sitter. Now you've lost the sitter. So at the end of the show, they realize we need that sitter back. And this is the last scene of the show. Ray appears on the doorstep. The family has now poached the sitter. This is the problem. You lose a sitter, some family poaches, and you've lost the sitter. So now Ray shows up to try to get the sitter back.
I'm just as interested as you because I don't remember any of it.
Let's see what happened here.
Let's watch the sitter. Yeah.
So good. So two things interesting. One, Parker, that's Patty's real-life husband, David.
There we go.
Yeah. And the babysitter, that's Kate Blanchett.
The babysitter is Diana Maria Riva.
Yeah.
And the little kid was Tess. I remember she was the kid.
Yeah.
We cast her. It's like, what little angel can we cast? So there you go. She's busy. And then the person who has one line who says Carrie, who's Nancy, is a woman named Elizabeth Herring, and I worked with her on another show where she was the dialogue coach for 10 years. But she had one line, and now I said, you always got to laugh. One word.
Wait, she was the script supervisor on ours.
On our show.
Yeah.
And went to college with Phil.
You went to college with Phil. But anyway, yeah.
Very incestuous.
Very incestuous. That's why, by the way, we had a choice of clips. I was like, oh, I can put all the actors are in this. But I feel bad because we didn't have Patty, we didn't have Doris, we didn't have Peter, but
If you knew us, you were in the show.
Yes.
All right, Cindy, we're going to see a clip that you did. Let's hear about that.
All right. Well, it's funny because rewatching this episode, this is going to be What's with Robert. It was the 4th season in show. Rewatching it, I forgot it started with Amy, who also Phil's wife. Amy has got a gift from Brad, basically, from Robert. And it was in a little ring box, and he hasn't proposed in a long time, and it was like a necklace. Well, I kind of forgot that's how I started that episode, but that happened to me with a boyfriend where he gave me it was like a Maube pearl ring, which was a big pearl that people used to wear. And I remember I was felt so stupid because I had practiced my reaction and everything. But anyway, it became about, well, maybe Robert's gay because he was breaking up with her again. It's this great scene with Patty. But now, that guy who gave me the Mauvais Pearl, I did marry. He did ask me to marry him, and he did turn out to be gay.
He did turn out to be gay.
Not sure what the moral is, but I continue to have kind of bad gaydar, but it always became a thing where. And that's why there was a great line in this episode that they came up with for me that Amy goes, they don't start out gay, I'm the spatula, I turn them. That's supposed to be. Okay, so this episode, this is a good example of what happened in the room, because we would start out with like a funny story from our lives, but then Phil and the whole room of writers would make it really deeper, like what does happen to the Barones if they wonder if Robert's gay? And like, Frank, how would he react? And like, and is it possible that maybe Robert would be loved more by his mom if he were gay? So this is the part of that scene, which is actually a really long scene, and this is only a bit of it. And it's just, that was another thing I loved about the show, is the really long scenes. It was like theater. You could just be in that kitchen, people coming in and out. It went on, and it was so fun and great. So this is that.
All right, let's see it.
Let's take a moment to recognize Peter Boyle and Doris.
Now, Cindy, you said something interesting before, which is it's a show with long scenes. And part of that is it's a show with no subplots. Every episode tells one story. I can think of very few other shows that did that. Phil, why?
I thought if a story is worth telling, it's worth telling for 20 minutes. And I come from theater here in New York, and these were my values. And the shows I loved, like All in the Family, Mary Tyler Moore, they had long scenes. The 4-camera sitcom, which you don't see much of anymore, is this perfect in-between theater and film. We write it, rehearse it, present it in front of a live audience like theater. But then we have the flexibility of 4 cameras and editing and preservation like film. So I don't know why this isn't a more beloved art form now, because people seem to like it.
Yeah.
But it takes special actors to carry like that long of a scene.
Who can do theater?
Yes, who can do theater basically.
Yes.
So it was just a pleasure to like.
And how about him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hadn't done it before, phenomenal.
Let's talk about this, Ray. You had done very little acting before this show.
Yes.
You know, now you're, as Phil says, you've worked with Scorsese. You've given some just fantastic dramatic performances on the small screen and the big screen. How did you get from there to here?
From the show, from Raymond?
From the start of Raymond when you weren't an actor to now.
Well, before Raymond, I was doing stand-up for 11 years at that time. And then I actually got cast in NewsRadio. You people remember? Yeah, okay. You never saw me because, this is a true story, after, the first one was a huge thing. I told my wife, we had 3 little kids. I went there and they cast me in it. You know, the guy saw me do stand-up, Sims, Paul Sims.
Paul
yes,
Sims, yeah.
was the creator. And I read for him. Somehow I got lucky in the reading and I hit it. And he goes, no, you're the guy, you're the guy. I didn't believe him, but then they cast me in it. So I went to LA and I read for the network. Paul Sims pushed for me. But I could feel it. I just felt a little in over my head. But they cast me. On day 1 of rehearsal, now it's, Phil Hartman's in there, Maura Tierney, Andy Dick. I could feel it again after the day 1 of rehearsal, that I just maybe was a little too green for this. I wasn't going to say anything. And then the next morning, day 2 of rehearsal, at 6:30, my manager right there calls me at 6:30 in the morning, and as soon as the phone rang, I said, why is he waking me up at 6:30? I knew it, and as soon as we started talking, he said the line that you always hear, they're going in another direction.
And what was that other direction, Ray?
That's what I said. I said, I'll go there. They went the Joe Rogan direction. Joe Rogan took my place. Joe Rogan, they recast me as Joe Rogan.
You could have saved us from all his crap.
Yeah, but then you wouldn't have had my crap because
That's true.
4 months later, I got the.
By the way, when we met, you didn't bring up the fact that you'd been fired from a.
How come Roy didn't go, Roy, you called me at 6:30 in the morning. I called to tell you can go back to sleep.
That's what I'm wondering is,
when I got the Raymond gig, they said, listen, we're going to give you an acting coach. And I said, really? They go, yeah, we're going to have, Richard Marion was his name, this lovely man. And every week he would come to, I had to rent an apartment in LA. You know, my family stayed in New York because they didn't know how long this was going to last. Yeah. And every week he would come and he would rehearse with me. For the first 2 seasons, I met with Richard Marion every week. And, you know, it also helped that I was involved with the writing. Things felt organic. If something felt weird to me, I tried to change it. I remember, I'll never forget this line in the writer's room. I'm like, Phil, the thing on page 5, I would never say that. I would never say that. And Phil looked at me and goes, that's why you do it. That's why you do it. And I said, I guess I can never change anything. If the reason you do it is because you wouldn't do it, you're screwed.
That's what made it funny.
But I will say this: when I watched the first season, and I've watched every season during COVID, I rewatched the whole show. I did. Well, it's a long story, but I did. Yeah. And I can see in the first season, I can see that I'm a little green, I'm a little stiff, and little by little, I fell into it. You know, we all wrote to the character and everything. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, I mean, I've always wanted to be an actor. I never knew how it would happen. I love stand-up, I still do stand-up, but it gave me the opportunity to try other things. It was slow. Yeah. You know, they know you as a sitcom guy. They don't want to hire you for drama. Yeah. So I had to create my own show. Me and Mike Royce created Men of a Certain Age.
Great show.
Yeah. It was little baby steps. Little baby steps. And I'm still learning, you know. I'm still trying to figure it all out.
For the writers, I'm curious, when you've got a leading man who, as he says, was kind of green in the first season and starts getting better and better, how did you sort of start to recognize that you could give him more kinds of things to do than you could at first?
I remember there was an issue with drinking coffee, right? There was a time. Yeah, we said you were going to drink coffee, and Ray, you said, I don't drink coffee. Yeah. And what did you say, Phil?
I said, listen, it's television in the cup. Anything you like.
Right, but then I said, I remember that, and I said,
they're not going to buy it.
I said, I guess at some point I have to act.
have to start acting.
Yeah.
But you know, some of the things, Ray hit on this, the fact that he was so involved with the writing process and that everything felt organic to him, I think that really was key to the whole thing.
Yeah, it helped.
And he was in the writer's room with us almost most of the time, so it was like you were part of creating, which is great.
You usually don't want the actor to come into the writer's room, because usually they come in and throw a grenade of one sort or another, but having Ray there, and Phil would perform this script with Ray, they would do a read-through, and we got a sense in the room how it's going to sound on the stage.
Yeah.
And Patty picked up all the slack.
Okay, we've got one more clip. This is from Tom and Aaron. Why don't you guys tell us about it?
This is a story that, so I was the only single writer in the writer's room, and which added a great perspective because I was so clueless about married life that my ignorance helped with stories. And so this one story was, I was doing stand-up comedy with, I wasn't with them, I was in the club with them, Gary Shandling, Kevin Nealon, right? They're way above me in every way. So I'm just sitting there eating, not talking, and then an older woman came in who went to high school with Gary, and her daughter sat next to me. So she's talking to her, I'd love to come to a show. Yeah, sure. So I gave her mother my card.
Siri thinks you're full of shit. Sorry, Paley. Paley, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no swear words. Wow, that's first. Anyway, so the girl, long story short, the girl emails and it's like, hey, I'd love to come up to the show. I go, yeah, okay, you and your mother, this is the truth. And she comes up alone. And so she comes to a filming, and I said, she goes, you know, today's my birthday. I go, oh, great. I go, she's like 19. I go, you're turning 20. And she goes, no, I'm turning 19. And I was like, okay, whatever. Watches the show. I don't think anything of it. The next morning is the table read. We're waiting for Raymond, who's sometimes late. And so we're just sitting there, and the director out of the blue goes, did you see the girl that was with Tom last night? And nobody ever talked before a table read. But people are milling about and then sit down and then they start. And so Phil goes, oh, yeah. You know, he was holding her birth certificate in one hand and looking at his watch with the other. So I didn't even know anybody noticed that there was even a girl there. Okay, so now, cut to like a month later, my father has a heart attack, and he's fine, okay, but I go back to New Jersey.
This will all connect, folks.
Yeah.
And then Siri will.
Phil calls me up. Tom, who are you bringing to the big food festival? I don't know, I'm not going. I might bring that girl that came to the thing. Okay, yeah, great. So now I come back from New Jersey, I walk in the writer's room. Phil, how's your father, Tom? Well, I think, oh, that's great. Listen, if you bring that young girl to that food festival, our lives are going to be hell. And I go, what are you even talking about, Phil? He goes, our wives will give us so much grief for you bringing this young girl. I go, how? Because I loved all the writers' wives were all nice and great to me. He's like, just don't bring her. I go, okay, fine. So I bring her. And
With a sippy cup.
By the way, this was 30 years ago, so don't. It sounds a little weird, but Tom was 40 then.
That's funny. Okay. We go to the event. It's a lovely time, but Doris Roberts, this can't leave this room. She might have drank a lot and fell at the event.
God.
We go to the hospital with us. Now we have a Lou Schneider and all the writers. Here's this young girl, and it is just a peppering of annoyance, okay, of them making those type of terrible jokes. So now, cut to Monday morning, Tucker Cawley comes in. How was your weekend
He's
with
one
the
of our
young girl?
writers.
One of the writers,
Tucker's one of our
Tucker
writers.
Cawley, brilliant writer. How was your weekend, Tom, with the young girl? And I go, I didn't have a weekend with her. She came to the food. That's great. Listen, I had the biggest fight with my wife. I go, how did you have a fight? He goes, I'm sitting in bed minding my own business. My wife walks in. What do you think Tom talks about with that young girl? I don't know, Eileen. Maybe they don't have to talk. Well, what does that mean? So now, it's terrible. Everything is terrible. 6 months go by. I go to Aaron Shure, who I know was single the longest. Everybody seemed to marry their college sweetheart. So no one had a dating history except for Aaron Shure, at least. Yes, the men, yeah. So now I go, Aaron, listen, I think it's cooled off enough in the writer's room. Let's pitch a story where Robert dates a young girl. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. So we pitched that idea, and this scene that you're going to see, it feels like Phil talking to me, Ray going to Robert.
Let's roll it. All right, so here's what I wonder. Phil, you said earlier on that you told the writers your job is to go home and have fights with your family and then come write it for television. In general, did doing the show, was it healthy for your families? Did it make things better?
Yes.
Or did it create more fights?
Every morning we'd come in, we'd grab a little something to eat and sit around the writer's table and pretty much avoid work by just talking. And what were we talking about? Just what happened at I wasn't even thinking about the show. I literally we're all just trying to eat and have fun and fool around and tell funny stories of the stuff that happens at home. And it's rare that we caught on that this was actually the method, but usually around lunchtime, hey, wait a minute.
I remember
that.
Tucker Cawley, who won the Emmy for the show Baggage, which was about,
The suitcase.
the suitcase. And I remember when we were struggling for a story and Tucker went,
I said, is anyone having a fight at home? I just
and
as
he
a
said, I
line.
think I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that suitcase is on the staircase.
And he went on a trip, the suitcase thing, right? And she's waiting for me to move it. She's going to wait a long time because, right? And Tom, being single, says, what the hell's wrong with you? Just move the suitcase. And all the other men in the room said in unison, you do not touch that suitcase. It was personal. Yes.
Every now and then at home, you'd get into a fight and keep it going a little longer because you're trying to find a second act.
But
Stretch
then
this
you
out.
always, I'm sure this happened with your wives, where you'd be fighting and they say, I don't want to see this on the show.
Yeah.
I better not see this on the show.
Yes.
What was the story with the ring?
Ray used to spin his wedding ring.
In real life.
I mean, he never did it. He talked about it once. Anyway, so Ray would we'd have these spin-offs where it's like, okay, ready, go. And you're like, this is again, in lieu of working. Time it lets you can spin their wedding ring the longest way. Yeah. So one time,
But
Ray
you wrote the episode about
Ray spinning a ring and having it go into an air conditioning vent on the floor.
Yes.
So Liz and I, who's over there, my wife, we take our kids skiing one time. We're up at the resort area, and our room wasn't ready, but they said, you can use the hot tub if you'd like. Go ahead. And so we went out to the jacuzzi, and I had all my junk, and all our stuff was in the car. We hadn't really checked in yet. So I'm wrestling the kids. Come on, guys, let's go. And we get into the elevator, and I have just, the kids are in bathing suits, we're all in bathing suits, but I have my jeans and my keys, the car keys. And as the door opens, there's a space between the door and the floor, and it's Easter weekend, and my keys go on a long trip 5 floors down. And now, I mean, they can open the door for the place, but I can't get anything out of my car. My car keys are down there. And I'm screaming and yelling, and Liz is trying to hold her hands over 3 kids' ears. And I'm screaming, and she goes, well, look at it this way. Maybe you can use this in the show. And I said, we can't, because we just did the show about Ray's ring going into a thing. So this isn't something you can use in the show. This is something shitty that happened.
That's right. That's all life is now. We don't have the show.
Yeah.
I have a question, Lou. In telling that story, why is it important that it was Easter weekend?
He's editing.
Because he is risen. No, because that meant that my keys are down there at Mammoth Mountain until some Jew can come up.
Lou, we're not in the writer's room. We can say these things in the writer's room.
There was nobody who could come. The Otis elevator guy wasn't coming up again until
Now I
Monday.
get it.
But the flip side is, what I wonder is, when your families would watch episodes of the show inspired by fights you'd had or stupid things that happened, did they like that, or did that basically bring the fight back again?
Oh, good question.
Since my brother and sister-in-law are here, we based very loosely Deborah's parents on Richard's wife Karen's parents, so his in-laws.
Yes.
Very loosely. Only in the
Our
physical.
parents played by
Robert Culp
and
Catherine
Catherine
Howell.
Howell.
We really just wanted to show that they were a little more high-toned, and
Yes.
our family was not so high-toned. Okay, so we do this, but so for drama, we have to have them not like the high-toned parents, right? And so that episode airs, and this is before streaming or anything, so you watched it at 9 o'clock on Monday, and at 9:30. My phone rings. I say hello, and it's my mother saying, "Are you out of your mind? We have to see these people." I said, "Mom, it's exaggerated. You have to call them and tell them. Do you know how uncomfortable this makes me?" I said, "Ma, your comfort is something I'm willing to sacrifice."
I remember when we did the episode where flashback where the Frank and Marie separated, and I broke my arm, and that made my father come over, and that really happened in my life. And I remember my brother Richard told me, I told Dad that you did the episode about them breaking up and then your arm, and he just said, "That bastard will stop at nothing."
I kind of got lucky with 10th anniversary because that was something I did before working on the show. 10th anniversary is the episode where it's their 10th anniversary. They put in their wedding video and discover that Ray is recorded over the wedding video. That I did on my first anniversary. And when she married me, I was literally a circus clown karaoke host. And so that first anniversary, we did not have a lot of money. And I thought it'd be romantic to put in the VHS and watch it, and discovered that I had taped over it.
With what?
It turns out I taped over it with an episode of Everybody Loves Raymond. Because I was researching the show, I was a struggling writer, and when Phil heard this story, he hired me, and then I was able to afford the divorce. So you can't see it because she's got it in the divorce. There's residuals.
That's what you want, writers who are willing to make the ultimate sacrifice.
My mother in the beginning of the show, you know, my brother was a New York City cop at the time too, and my mother used to talk to me, you know, in private and say, Raymond, do you got to make the brother, you know, so goofy and everything? No, but she said, they're teasing him at the precinct about it.
Again, we were okay with that.
He was okay too. He finally met Brad.
Yes.
And also he was single at the time.
Yeah, what did he say?
So he started, you know, doing well with the ladies, you know. So he reaped the benefits of it, yeah.
Phil, you told me one time Ray and Deborah had a fight on the show, and it was inspired by something that happened between you and your wife, Monica. And then she sees the episode, and Ray says something very eloquent to Deborah in apology, and Monica says to you, how come you understand it for television? Did that kind of thing happen a lot?
Yes. My wife and I were in bed watching a show, watching one of our episodes, and it was me and Patty in a scene. And when the scene was over, this is exactly, I'm not word for it, but I remember what you said. You said, you just talked to her in that scene more than you've talked to me all week. And I said, we have writers who help us.
All right, so you had the advantage, as you said, you were in the writer's room, so that helped shape Ray as a character. The rest of the actors were not on the writing staff, so how did all of you figure out what it was about Patricia, about Doris, about Brad, about Peter, that was funniest about them and about the characters so you could start writing towards that?
That's evolution. That's you start to notice somebody's strengths. Patty Heaton happens to be great at every single thing we did, and this is, you know, and suddenly you notice, you try a little something, oh, she cries funny.
Yeah.
That's like Mary Tyler Moore had that, right? That's like, oh, we gotta, so it should, you know, we should make her vulnerable too. And then what if she's wrong once, right? Now you have a show, but that takes time to build that.
Yeah.
You have to also have a studio and a network that's going to trust you to take that time. It can't all be there.
Yeah.
That's not what life is.
The audience in the beginning, the studio audience would come in. First of all, we could hardly get a studio audience.
We literally had, I'm not even kidding, half the audience was from a nursing home, and the other half from prison.
No, and sometimes they would pay them. They would pay them to
Yes.
come in.
There was one time, I think it was, where half the studio audience was sort of from a mental institution. And my partner and I, before we realized that, we're like, we are getting amazing laughs. And things we didn't even think were funny. And then we're like, oh.
But what the truth was, those first few weeks or months,
Before you're on the air, you're filming with a
Yeah.
studio audience that just
They know
needs
nothing.
a warm room.
Yes.
Right?
but also forget who they were. They also, even a normal audience knows
Yeah.
nothing about the characters. So we're not doing punchlines. We're not doing setup punchlines. You know, when Marie comes into the room and she shouldn't be there, the audience doesn't know that till episode 7 or 6, you know?
Yeah.
So it was pretty rough in the beginning, and we
Yeah.
just had to trust that it was funny still, you know? And not succumb to wanting to just write jokes.
Right.
And write to the character.
But we started to understand that they were getting the kind of universality of
Yes.
the situation, that about a marriage and about parents and things like that is, you know, fruit of the month.
Well-
That audience had never seen the show before.
By the end, the show was the people had gotten to know the characters so well that and Phil would stay in editing. He would stay on a single of somebody's face. Just let the story tell in the faces, and we go between faces. So usually after a show airs, they type up all the scripts, and as for a half-hour sitcom, the as broadcast scripts usually come out to like 44 pages. Our shows we have as broadcast 33 pages long because they were held for. There was just looks and action and moments that we played, and you can't really do that.
We would cut certain punchlines in editing because the face of Brad Garrett was funnier than anything we could write.
Yeah, didn't you used to call him the human blow?
Yes. The blow of a
good.
scene is the last line of a scene. You want to get out on a laugh, and if you gave Brad anything like, see you later. Yep.
He could also do this thing where you go,
Yeah, right. So good.
whoa.
Do you
So
remember, I don't know if we should tell this story, but
Please.
Too late now.
But it was, like we said, rough in the beginning. And then by the sixth week, when one episode aired already,
Yeah.
started getting a couple more people in the audience who knew.
Right.
And then I don't know what episode it was, but where Patty takes the ice cream.
Okay, so let me tell you, that was the third episode we shot, and it hadn't been on yet. So
good.
this is where go ahead, say what happens.
We were having a contest, who's the
IQ
more
test.
intelligent,
IQ
whatever.
test, yeah.
And just to cut to the end,
Standard deviation.
where I found out I got a higher score, and I was gloating, and she was eating ice cream, and she took it and threw it in my lap.
Yes.
And I just sat there.
Yeah.
And at
The
that
laugh went
time,
on.
It was the longest laugh we ever got.
Went on for over 30 seconds from an audience that had never seen the show before. And I started to understand, it's not just the physical bit. The looks on their faces, their relationship, what that said about not just marriage, but their specific marriage.
Yeah.
I turned to my friends here, and I actually said, we're all going to be millionaires.
Now, you guys, in addition to being a multicam, which, as you said, Phil is not made as much anymore, you also got to go on a journey of success that does not happen much anymore. You were on Fridays that first year.
That's right.
Nobody was watching the show.
There hadn't been a hit in that time slot since Gomer Pyle.
Yes. And in the last season, you are the most popular show on television. So but being in obscurity, did that help you in some way? Were you able to do anything that you wouldn't have if there had been more eyes on you?
We had the gift of time because they didn't expect numbers there.
Yeah.
And they didn't get them. But the 3 people that watched did come back every week. They took notice of that. And the head of CBS said, you know what, we're having a show on Monday, our big comedy night, that's not doing well. I'm going to give you, he called me, he goes, I'm going to give you 6 episodes on Monday night at the end of the first season.
Following
Following the Cosby show of CBS, the later
Right.
one.
Yes.
Don't say Cosby. And
I wasn't going to bring it up.
what else can we say? You know who was lovely to us? Harvey Weinstein.
I was going to say, following an all-new Weinstein.
I'm going to give you 6 episodes on Monday, but if you don't do well there, that's it for you. So it's like we made it to the World Series, but just like the World Series, you could go home not winning. And so we were really nervous. The first night we were on in that nice time slot, our ratings doubled.
Yeah.
So just to give you a little insight into our heads and how we're alike a little bit, we both said, everyone's excited. We said, no, because we can only go down from here.
Next week. We thought
Right?
next week we'll go
Next
down.
week we're going to go with they just tried it.
We had a great lead in, a lot of
Okay.
numbers.
Next
Yeah.
week, now it's really, we went up from there.
Yeah.
And that's
Then we
when we
stayed on
thought,
Mondays.
we can breathe a little bit. Until third season when they put us opposite, they moved us opposite, not kidding, Ally McBeal, one of the biggest shows on TV at that time, and Monday Night Football. And within 3 months, we were beating them both.
Yep.
True. It is true. Ha-ha. The football players at Clarkstown North High School used to knock my books down in the hall.
And Ally McBeal wouldn't date me. Oh, no, I said don't.
Okay, so we've talked about Ray as an actor, we've talked about Patty, we talked a little bit about Brad. We haven't talked a lot about Doris and Peter.
Amazing.
Yeah, Cindy, you wrote a great episode for Peter. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it was so fun to write.
No, we don't have a clip.
This was Driving Frank. I had worked on other shows, and this was the first show where we brought in stories from our lives, and I loved it, and that's everything I've wanted to do since. And I was having a thing where my dad was always a terrible driver, and so, but then my sister had kids, and we were like, we always thought we'd die in the car, but her kids shouldn't. So we had to talk to him about taking away his keys, and so I brought that in and got to write that one for. And it's really, it was so fun to watch, but it was hard, and that was another example of making it deeper, because you come in with that story and then the room's but it's really about aging and Ray being worried about losing his dad and all these other issues that probably I didn't realize were going on in my actual life, but they were. And by the way, my dad, even though he died last year, he was trying to drive. I think he would sneak off to a car dealership. He was still trying to drive, losing his keys, and that was so many years ago, was just such a big thing for him. So, and it was just so fun to see Peter Boyle. He's so belligerent about it, what it meant to him.
He was great. Two interesting things about Peter Boyle. Studied to be a monk when he was younger. I asked him, why'd you give it up? And he says, there weren't enough girls there. And the other thing is, I wonder if you know this, you know who best man at his wedding was? John Lennon. Yeah. Wow. He was cool, Peter Boyle.
Not bad.
Yeah. And Doris Roberts was wrote that scene, had my mother in mind for that, saw 100 ladies. She came in, read that through the month scene, that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. What more do you want?
Yeah, Ray, I got to walk through the exhibit, the lovely Paley exhibit that's up there, and at one point there's a list of alternate title suggestions for the series. Do you remember anything about this?
Yeah, I do remember it. Everybody Loves Raymond was in the pilot script because of that story, and then Phil said, I'm going to put it as a title, and I said, no. I was a comic. I was self-deprecating. I don't want everybody to love. I can't have that as a title. It's just opening yourself up to get attacked. And you said, it's a working title. We can change it. I
meant it.
Right. And then CBS fell in love with it. And I begged the head of CBS. I said, please, I can't. I'm going to have to live with that. And I was kind of just joking around. I go, this is going to be a top 10 hit, and I got to live with that title for the rest of my life. And he said to me, if it's a top 10 hit, you can name it whatever you want, right? He goes, but give me some replacements, and we'll test market it. So that thing in the exhibit is my little sheet of, and my manager right here said, make sure you keep your name in the title. He's thinking of the business side of it, because your name has to be in the title. So I have these ridiculous, do you have
I wrote some of them down. We've got Guy Named Raymond.
Not bad.
Okay, That Raymond Guy. Nice Being Raymond. And my favorite, Raymond.
That's my favorite. Raymond. You think we're here if it's Raymond?
So now the show does become a top 10 show the next year. Yes. And Ray calls the head of CBS and says, can we change it now? And what does he say?
He says, no, well, we can't change it now. Everybody knows.
Did the same thing happen? Did you really, I can't remember what the thing was. You were going to say, we're going to move the show back to New York, right? That was the whole thing too, right?
To New York?
Yeah, you were maybe going to, there was some talk of am I wrong about this?
No, we maybe talked about it before it started, maybe, whether we're going to film it in New York. But no, after we started it, no. After the first year, my family came, I came out by myself because we had 3 little kids. We had twins and a 4-year-old girl, twin, 2-year-old boys. Yeah, they're here.
Everyone was in the show. All the kids were in the show, and they were great.
Where's the other twin?
Ray, weren't you in the same apartment complex as Peter, though? Weren't you guys?
Yeah, just coincidentally, I had to rent an apartment, and Peter got the apartment in the same building,
I love
and we
that.
started hanging out together,
Above. By the way, Ray, your daughter's here, too, who played Molly.
I said that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Yes, my daughter played Molly. You guys know who Molly was?
Wow, they remember. Isn't that nice?
She got married.
Yes.
At the New York Public Library,
Nice.
which sounds like it's not expensive, right? Let me tell you something, folks. If you're ever wondering why I'm doing Ice Age 6, the real Ice Age didn't last this long.
I love that he brought his Ice Age jokes.
Anyway, whatever.
Should we
That
take
was
a
the
couple? Do we have time for a couple from the people?
Could we do questions from the audience?
Why not?
Raise your
Okay,
hand.
I like
Raise
the
your
people.
hand.
Raise
Raise
your hand and we'll have people
Turn the
running
lights on.
mics.
Can we turn
Yankee
the lights
hat.
on?
You got to go Yankee hat first.
We gotta go Yankee, but we have
Turn
to
the
wait
lights
for
on.
there to be a
Yay!
microphone.
Hi.
Hold
Oh,
on a
look at the
sec.
nice people. I have so many friends here too. Hi, friends.
By the way, Maggie Wheeler's
Lights,
here
put
too.
the lights halfway.
Yes.
Did we point
Halfway.
out Maggie?
No, that's
Serious.
good. That's good.
Raymond, did we
Move.
point out Maggie Wheeler?
Maggie Wheeler, you see
Yay!
her.
So my first question is for Phil. I'm just wondering if somebody fed you today.
Oh, isn't that nice? Yeah.
I hate that show. I hate that show. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. 'Cause it's so good that now when we go out all the time to eat, and when people come over for a picture, I'm not even there. They go right to him. They go right to him. You know it's true. Richard,
By
life's
the way,
killing
my
me.
favorite is when they hand you the camera to take the picture. Wait, what's your line that I love that you said when you came
Oh,
out?
he was, so everybody knows his show, right? You know his show, Somebody Feed Phil?
Yeah.
So, not only is it popular on Netflix, but he does a one-man theater
Live show,
tour,
yeah.
live show all over, sells out these theaters, right? 2,000-seat theaters. He shows clips of the Somebody Feed Phil, whatever. So he was having one, but he was having one in Long Island, so I crashed it, and it was during the Q&A, and you know, you were showing clips, you show whatever, and it was a theater in Long Island, and I come out, and the audience, yay, they're very nice to me. And I go, folks, I go, Phil, I have a question. And I pointed to the audience. I go, how did this shit happen? I've been doing stand-up 30 years. I can't fill this theater. You go to Poland and have meatloaf. And look at this. But anyway, sorry, more.
I love America.
Actually, a friend of mine is in Iceland right now, and I sent her your show when you guys were in Iceland.
That's
I said,
so
you have to
nice.
watch it. Anyway, my real question. Is this.
You got a Yankee hat.
Can't you be,
So,
Luke, can't you be happy for somebody else?
What's the difference between a bechamel and a béarnaise?
Let her ask the question, guys.
so my real question is for Ray and for Phil. Do
Okay.
you guys have a favorite episode or one that was really poignant that you remember?
I got a few. I mean, the PMS one, the Bad Moon Rising. One of my favorites is the Fly. You know, which sadly enough, my brother is a single man, and the second half of that show, where he sees all the frogs and he climbs out the window, is based on a true story. But it was snakes. He dated this woman. First date, and he found all the snakes.
Was worse.
So we worked backwards. We worked.
Eat mice.
What?
Yes.
Yeah.
Live mice.
That's right, but we
that's why
couldn't have a
changed
girl
it to
eat a
frog.
mouse.
We changed it to frog.
Yes.
Season 8 of Somebody Feed Phil. Watch.
All right, other people, raise hands in the back.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I have wanted to ask this question since I saw this episode. In season 9, episode 1, when Frank and Marie tell the kids that they're moving, everyone's celebrating in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Ray, do you know what I'm going to ask you?
Yeah, I think that's the best physical bit we ever did on the show.
But there's,
We try to put her on the refrigerator.
no.
It's why
Robert,
Miss Heaton is in a wheelchair today.
Robert kisses Ray. Was that improv or was that scripted? Because it looked like it was
I think he did that on
improv.
his own. Yeah. No, I think the kiss was written. The tongue was improv. He
See what he did there?
No, but I think it was not written, right?
I don't remember.
I don't think it was.
I mean, everything was choreographed, because this is a common question, because Patty got beaten up, and I took photos of the rehearsal. There's Phil, there's Patty with a script, and Ray slamming her against the refrigerator. In the script, just like the turkey question always gets asked. And that was, yes, it was written. Patricia Heaton has to perform it brilliantly, but there's almost nothing that isn't written other than kissing.
But to Patty's credit, throwing somebody against the fridge, okay, it's funny. But the physical way your arms and legs went like this, that added to it.
So good, so good.
Okay, we've got.
Thank you.
Okay, question right there, sir. Yeah, you.
I want to ask, especially in the comic scene, where they're at Ray's house in Lucky Suit, where Robert walks in so mad at Marie.
Lucky Suit, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did he improvise any of that, or did he was that?
No, so there's an example of his face is so great that all he has to do is come in and look like he's going to kill her. And we've seen what she did to him, right? Yeah. She sent a note to the FBI during his interview for the FBI. And now the door opens, and all he has to do is stand there looking like he's going to kill her, and the laugh goes on and on and on.
I mean, when it was written, we don't know what he's going to do. We know he's going to do something.
Well, we know.
And then in rehearsal,
we don't know that they're going to laugh for that long just on his face.
Right.
So what do? You get to do this great thing, that's theater, which is hold for the laugh, which you don't do in a film show. You can do it in a live studio audience show.
Was that Aaron? Was that based on something with you?
Tucker
Cawley's dad.
Dad got a lawyer, had a law firm, and a woman wrote, "Please forgive my husband. I ruined I didn't pick up his lucky suit in time from the." Yeah. So she sends that to. So he comes in and reads that letter, and Phil, of course, is like, "Okay."
Pretty good. All right, right there, sir, in the hat.
Yes. I was wondering, for a show as successful as yours, when do you decide to pack it in? You guys pretty much left at the top of your game.
Oh, thanks.
And I know a lot of shows hang around too long, and I'm sure the network didn't want to see you go and bring in dump trucks to all your houses to stick around. But is it an evolving thing, or you just get to an end of a season and say, I think we're done, or I think we have one more? How do you come to that conclusion?
Well, I'll tell you, let me answer for you, to Phil's credit. We both kind of felt, we are at the top, and we want to leave on the top. And when it was time to come up with story ideas, it started getting harder and harder, and we felt like we were stealing from ourselves a little bit. And then you said we wanted to stop season 8.
Yeah.
And you said to the network, well, first you said to us, let's see if we can come up with 8 ideas. And
let's see how many we can come up with, right?
For season 9.
For season 9. And this is, some of the best comedy writers in the world, all thinking, okay, let's think of stories. All of us, brilliant comedy writers, 6 ideas. And I called the head of CBS, I go, I don't think we have a season 9. I think we have this many ideas. Oh, come on, you could do, listen, if you want to leave, I could have Ray and Doris read the phone book. We're a network. We don't care about writing.
I remember there was a lot of, I remember coming in, we were all supposed to come in with ideas, and Phil says, what do you got? And I pitch something, and Phil goes, okay, what else you got?
Yeah, because a lot of it.
And then Phil goes, okay, we
Yeah. We had 210 when we were done. That's a lot of anything. So I had a big negotiation with the head of the network, and I think we finally ended up with maybe a 16 episode.
I thought you'd say if we can come up with 8 now, we can come up with
another.
16.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we did, and that's why season 9 is 16 episodes.
We love the show
we loved the show.
Yeah.
We loved you. We loved that the feedback we were getting from you. It was very important. We didn't want to disappoint you. And there's an old showbiz axiom: you got to get off the stage before somebody says, "Hey, you should get off the stage."
Yep.
And we all know the shows, like you said, that stayed too long. We didn't want to be. And I think the reason we're celebrating 30 years at the museum is because we left at the right moment.
Final episode, you ended it on a regular episode.
No, it was very much a final episode. It was very important to seem like a typical episode, but extra weight. The audience fills it in that this is the final episode. Ray's going in for a little surgery. What would happen? Well, we're playing on the fact that you know it's the last episode. Oh my God, what if he doesn't wake up? They don't need him anymore. But the very last line, who remembers what the last line of the series is?
We're going to need a bigger table.
Bless you. We need,
But we
need
knew,
a bigger
we
table.
knew.
Yes,
We
that's
didn't-
everything.
We didn't want to do the cliffhanger, is he going to die, is not. So as soon as
30
I
seconds.
was coming out,
Yes.
we ended it
Yes,
right away.
yes, and then
yeah.
the show could take off from there.
Right.
But that moment, very important, right? And we need a bigger table says everything. Yeah.
By the
Yes.
way, can we just acknowledge Rory Rosegarten, who's in front there?
Yes.
Executive producer, yeah.
And then here's Karen Wald, our script supervisor. Woo! Wonderful.
And
Who else is here from the show?
Maggie
Yes.
Wheeler, Patricia Heaton.
Yes, wonderful.
Right.
And Tom
Can-
and Jen, who put
Yes.
the exhibit together.
Yeah.
Where's Jen?
There's Jen Haggerty up there.
Excellent.
And then, by the way, Paley, Amy, Rob, and Ron right there
Yes.
who were instrumental. Everybody,
Thank you all.
everybody at Paley who helped bring this about.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Everybody Loves Raymond writers, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Of course. That was great.